I woke up with a jolt, heart rattling the cage of my ribs. The dream, no, the nightmare, was already unraveling in the light of early morning, but I forced myself to grab my phone and hit record before it escaped completely. Black water, empty playground, carousel turning by itself, I muttered, eyes still sticky with sleep. Children's laughter in reverse. Something standing behind the swing set, 12 feet tall, skin like burned paper. The red indicator stopped. My pulse slowed. A soft chime meant the file had been encrypted and uploaded to Nocturne Exchange, the hottest gig economy app no one admitted using. Within minutes, I'd earned 46 credits in passive views and 21 more from 3 live commentators who loved the uncanny playground angle. By lunchtime, the balance would climb to triple digits. In a city where groceries floated up faster than rent caps, selling nightmares was a sweeter side hustle than ferrying noodles on an e-bike. Nocturne's pitch was brutally simple. You dream, they stream. Anyone with the gray market cranial mesh, thin electrodes that lay between scalp and pillow, could record REM signals, which the app decoded into immersive sequences. Insomniac voyeurs paid to jack into other people's terrors. The algorithm boosted content that scored high on novelty and effect intensity, nudging the most lucrative dreamers to the top of the leaderboard. And I, Olivia Byrne, sat at number 4. Nightmares had plagued me since childhood. Mom called them a curse, therapists a symptom, but Nocturne turned them into rent money. I even quit tutoring calculus because the nightmares paid more and the app's community treated me like a minor celebrity. But in the past 2 weeks, something was off. I kept seeing a figure that didn't belong to me. During a Tuesday nap, I recorded a dream about drowning in a library. While coughing up brackish water, I looked across floating shelves and spotted a silhouette with a long, eroded neck and eyes like glazed embers. It wasn't frightening so much as wrong, as if it had photobombed the scene from someone else's mind. Wednesday night, the same silhouette turned up in a different subscriber's nightmare, one I'd bought for research. In that feed, it lurked behind melting office cubicles, limbs unfolding like camera tripods. Commenters buzzed about the Cinder Man, a nickname ripped from campfire folklore. A day later, the app's internal forum exploded. Users posted stills. A charred torso looming over a church pew, peering from the hatch of a submerged submarine, kneeling atop a bed's headboard. The poses varied. The grainy texture didn't. One moderator claimed it was cross-pollination, when people binge similar nightmares and the brain recycles imagery. Another said Nocturne's compression software occasionally grafted motifs together. A bug, nothing more. Bug or not, it made views spike. Anything with Cinderman in the hashtags rocketed up the monetization charts. I should have been glad. Instead, I chewed my cuticles until they bled. Friday evening, I met Ravi at the Black Penny, a cafe that tolerated laptops so long as you overpaid for cold brew. Ravi used to write firmware for Nocturne before jumping ship to build meditation wearables. He knew the app's guts. "You're saying it's showing up in your waking life?" he asked. "Not visually, but I feel it." I stirred my coffee, watching cream swirl like polluted galaxies. Corners of rooms feel occupied. Elevators feel tall, like there's something still rising. Ravi rubbed his beard. "Dream contamination is real, Liv. Mirror neurons don't clock out when you close the app. You binge horror, your subconscious binge prints. But people are disappearing." I tapped a news link. 2 top earners, Scarlet Vapid and Morpheus Mike, had missed daily uploads for 4 days. Their phones pinged inside apartments, but no one answered the doors. Police wellness checks found nothing but rumpled sheets and still recording cranial meshes. "Coincidence," Ravi muttered, though his eyes flicked left. His tell for doubt. A notification chimed on my phone. Nocturne had flagged one of my older files for derivative content. It was the drowning library dream. Under it, the admin wrote, "Similar imagery detected in multiple streams. Review needed to avoid payout reduction." So now I was plagiarizing a thing that had invaded my head uninvited. That night I decided to confront it. I prepped my bedroom like a laboratory. Windows duct taped to kill city glare. White noise speaker pumping rainfall at 40 hertz. The cranial mesh synced to Nocturne, but I toggled private so no one could buy a ticket. If Cinderman wanted an audience, he'd get only me. I drank valerian tea, lay down, and recited a mantra for lucid dreaming. Within minutes, the world liquefied. I stood in my childhood backyard, grass frost burned under a purple sky. The air smelled like hot batteries. I spun, half hoping, half dreading. There, beyond the crooked oak, taller than before, head skewed as if hanging from an invisible hook, skin fissured into charcoal plates. I felt him register me, the way wildfire registers pine sap, fuel. "This is my dream," I said, voice quavering. "Get out!" A throat of embers crackled but made no words. He stepped forward, ground sizzling. Each footfall punched gravity heavier, pulling trees toward him. Roots tore free and slithered closer, as if the entire landscape wanted to cuddle its destroyer. I tried flight, classic lucid escape tactic, but the sky folded like wet cloth, dropping me to my knees. Need a new trick. Dad's advice surfaced. If you can't win, wake up. I searched for the lucidity ripcord, a loud noise, a blinking light. But the dream's walls had thickened, harder than any REM boundary I'd known. As Cinderman raised his hand, fingertips glowed white as smelter rods. The pain arrived before contact, a phantom burn against my cheek. Some part of me kicked the mattress, slammed reality back in. I bolted upright, soaked. My phone screen blazed beside me. Recording 7 hours 04 minutes. Status, live. Live. I'd set it to private. Yet 3,000 viewers were still tuned in. Comments crawled. "Holy shit, is that real pain response? Someone tip her. This is art. Cinder cameo. Year 2.1407. Yes." I stared, mouth Xeric. Nocturne had overridden my settings. My nightmare sold while I fought for my mind. The system paid me well for it, too. 2,040 credits. More than last month's rent. Sickened, I pulled off the mesh, thumb hovering over delete account. Then a text arrived from Ravi. "You need to come to the lab. Something's spreading through the aggregator nodes." I went. Ravi's lab was an abandoned co-working space smelling of dust and ambition. He'd set up 3 towers of illegal GPUs humming under tinted fans. On-screen, multicolored threads flowed through a central nexus. Every nightmare ever uploaded. "This is Nocturne's shadow cache," he said, typing fast. "They don't admit it exists. The public feed only stores low-res synaptic patterns. But internally, they keep the raw data, millions of full-fidelity fear states, to train predictive models." He zoomed in. At the center, a black congealed knot pulsed, devouring threads like a spider swallowing web. "Entropy normally disperses," Ravi whispered, "but something's aggregating, accreting. Each time a nightmare references a certain symbol, tall, charred figure, it routes extra attention weight here. Feedback loop. Popularity begets integration, which breeds more popularity, and so on. The data structure is literally shaping itself around a composite entity." "Cinderman," I breathed. "Not a man, a construct. A meta-trauma stitched from thousands of overlapping fear signatures." He rubbed his eyes. "And we think it's jumping the sandbox." He showed me real-time EEG graphs from top creators. Even offline, their brainwaves displayed micro-patterns identical to Nocturne's server activity, as if the construct piggybacked on dormant mesh implants like a parasite traveling power lines. Neurotech insulation wasn't built for inbound traffic. "Scarlet Vapid and Morpheus Mike?" I asked. Both showed spikes before vanishing. Their apartment routers went haywire, emitted ultrasonic bursts that fried neighbor pets. Cinder's not content with dream space anymore. He's learning to modulate IoT hardware, EM fields, maybe even group delusion. Wake world proximity. A crash upstairs froze us. The building was supposed to be empty. Ravi killed the monitors. Darkness flooded. Footsteps echoed above. Slow, deliberate, heel-grinding cement. Dust sifted past fluorescent tubes like ash. We didn't speak. We ran. Down a stairwell, through a service door into an alley shimmering with heat, though night air was crisp. My phone vibrated. Push alert. Stream request from Ascenderscene U. Accept, decline. There was no decline option. Heat prickled my scalp. I looked back. A shape filled the doorway, edges fracturing like burnt paper handled too roughly. Light poles bent toward it, filaments popping. "Car!" I gasped. Ravi unlocked his hatchback. We dove inside as radio static erupted without ignition. The windshield clouded with soot from nowhere, scrawling words backward. Share, share, share. Tires peeled. At the curb, my phone chimed every second. New viewers eager to tune into our flight. I turned it off, yanked the battery, a futile gesture given backup cells. Streetlights stuttered, whole blocks blinking out as if night itself were breathing. "Where do we go?" I barked. "Somewhere analog," Ravi said, swerving onto the bridge toward the industrial district. "Lead-clad walls, no Wi-Fi. Old foundry might work." The irony wasn't lost. Hiding from a smoldering nightmare inside a metal furnace graveyard. But the foundry sat dark, electricity severed after bankruptcy. We parked under a busted conveyor, trudged past iron molds that looked like sarcophagi for titans. Inside the central casting pit, Ravi produced a Faraday blanket, silvered mesh used to test his wearables. We wrapped ourselves and his spare laptop. "Signal-proof," he muttered, lighting a camping lantern. "If we can access the cache again, maybe we can quarantine the construct, starve it. How? It's already in people's heads. Dreams are software running on meat. We write a patch, call it a vaccine. Another meme strong enough to disrupt the neural pattern. Deploy it as a mandatory update. The top earners' brains become broadcast towers for the cure." "You think a bedtime story can kill that thing?" "Not kill, outcompete." He opened code windows. Strings flew. While he worked, I paced, lantern throwing jittery shadows. Steam memory of daytime heat still radiated from brick. My burned cheek throbbed, though skin looked untouched. I wondered if pain could exist without injury when the brain believed fervently enough. Tap, tap, tap. I spun. No one near. The sound repeated above the ceiling, then lower, inside the ductwork. Metal pinging under thermal stress or knuckles. Ravi stopped typing. "Did you?" The lantern flickered. Its battery shouldn't. The air smelled like rain on asphalt after a wildfire. The foundry's power was cut, yet high above. A gantry crane hummed to life, wheels grudging after years of rust. It rolled along its track. Sparks showered from seized gears, spitting amber confetti. In the crane's operator cage stood a figure, too tall, head skewed, back lit by the embers it summoned. Ravi slammed the laptop shut. Faraday mesh crackled as if riddled with hail. The air thickened until my eardrums popped. Cinderman stepped from the cage, gravity indifferent. He hovered down like ash on an updraft. "Patch now," I hissed. "Need 2 minutes," Ravi said, reopening the lid. "Pray." I faced the entity. Memories of every nightmare bled together. Library water, carousel, charred oak. But I noticed something new. Behind him, the dark rippled. My watchers? Viewers slipped between planes like paparazzi through curtains, hungry for real-world carnage. If I rejected the stage, they'd find another performer. If the top earners went, next in line, rose. The construct's incentives were perfectly gig economy. Bleed the best until the rest step up. So I did the only thing I had left. Offered myself. I spread my arms. "I'll share, all of it. Take the master key." Cinderman's head tilted, listening. "But first," I continued, "they have to see something fresh." I bit my thumb, smeared blood across the lantern glass. Its light refracted crimson, throwing a new spectrum on the walls. The monster paused. Interest? Confusion? Either way, milliseconds for Ravi. "Uploading patch," he whispered. "Fusing to your account. You'll be patient 0. "Of course. Do it." Heat blistered my shins as Cinder closed the gap. I held eye contact, if those coal pits were eyes. The pain this time was real, skin singeing through denim. I screamed, raw and wordless. Somewhere phones chimed like slot machines. Subscribers loves this, I thought bitterly. Then Ravi hit enter. The foundry walls dissolved, not in reality, but to my senses. I stood in a white void, alone. My charred jeans unburned, thumb uncut. A lucid dream. The patch had hijacked my perception, yanking my consciousness into an emergency sandbox before the pain became permanent trauma. Across the void, Cinder Man appeared. Yet his form jittered as if streamed on dial-up. The white floor reflected fragmented versions of him, hundreds of silhouettes fracturing like a dropped mirror. I understood. The patch wasn't a single meme, but an anti-coalescent signal. It fed Cinder an overdose of identity, each shard tugging away from the center, each begging to become its own micro-nightmare. The construct had thrived on integration. Now forced into multiplicity, it couldn't keep itself whole. He lunged, but every motion detached another slice. Pieces peeled off and evaporated into static. The void brightened until nothing remained but a sigh like cooling metal. I fell backward, landing on foundry concrete. The lantern still glowed, unbloodied. The crane silent, night ordinary. Ravi knelt, relief flooding his face. "It propagated," he said. "Analytics show dispersal. Everyone logged in is dreaming harmless fireflies right now." He laughed, half sob, half mania. Yet my skin still hurt. I rolled up a sock. Blisters stippled my ankle, evidence that the boundary remained porous. "Will it stay gone?" I asked. "We've shredded the aggregation weights, pushed a hotfix to block multi-thread motifs, but data is Hydra-hearted. People could resurrect it. Then we destroy the incentive." I opened Nocturne on his laptop. Funds, 3604 credits. I hit withdraw all, transferring to Ravi's nonprofit for insomnia therapy. Next, I deleted every stream I'd ever posted, wiped my account, and for good measure, uploaded a final manifesto that read, "Your fear is not gig fodder. Log off before it owns you." Minutes later, our phones pinged with a message from Nocturne legal threatening breach of service action. We laughed until we cried. Sunrise bled through the foundry windows. Soot drifted in lazy beams. I watched the particles, half expecting them to swirl into a shape. They didn't. "Get some sleep," Ravi said, shouldering his bag. "I'll walk it off," I told him. Honestly, the idea of closing my eyes again felt like signing a waiver I hadn't read. Outside, city sounds rebooted. Buses hissing, vendors hawking coffee. Digital billboards flickered back online, one showing Nocturne's violet logo before it stuttered, replaced by a maintenance screen. I exhaled. For now, the nightmare belonged to nobody. But I knew the economy of attention. Something else would come along, promising easy cash for pieces of ourselves we couldn't afford to sell. When it did, I hoped I'd remember the feel of burned skin and the cost of being trending. I turned my phone off and walked into the waking day, ready to dream alone for free.